What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Designated Podcast. I'm your host. Can I say host? I think we're all kind of equal.
But
I'm one of four hosts tonight. I'm Joss, and I'm here with Jacob.
Yo.
Jules.
What's good?
And Jackson, bro. What's up?
What's up?
30.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, it's been a week since we recorded our last episode. We'll be posting it up on a website pretty soon. I've been working on that along with the blog.
Yeah, should also be up on our YouTube channel, which at the moment is mostly MLS podcast, but of course it's going to change. Designated Podcast on YouTube.com.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just trying to get some content. I think before we like put it on before we get a website going, because we don't want to upload just like an empty website, you know. So we're trying to roll out some content, but so that's what I've been doing pretty much. I've been working on our website, been doing some homework, but I want to hear about from you guys. What have you guys been up to, Jacob?
I've been working with one of the co-hosts tonight, Joss Bathke, on a thing called Dubcast, and doing a little bit of homework as well. Actually, a lot of homework.
All right.
Nice. Jules, what about you?
Yeah. I mean, I've been working a lot to get the YouTube channel up and running because that's kind of like my specialty around here is video and stuff.
That's true, dude.
But yeah, I made us our logo, which is currently on screen right now. It looks pretty nice, if I do say so.
It's pretty fire, bro.
It took me a good 2 hours to make that. But
damn.
Yeah. Besides that, I started recently working in Blender, which is like 3D modeling like software, and that's really interesting. But yeah, that's all I've been doing.
Nice.
Listen to some Dubcast every now and then, you know.
Nice, yeah, of course. Gotta go to Dubcast. Jack, what about you?
Well, I've been just doing online classes with Zoom and stuff, and suffering through that. And I've also been just collecting information. There goes Jacob. I've been collecting information in a separate Google Doc for our first blog post, and I'll add all that to our blog post you and I have been working on here soon.
Yeah. I'll add to that pretty soon. I've been slacking, bro. My bad, fam.
It's okay, bro. We've only got 2 teams
starting up. You know, with classes starting up, it's been a little difficult, but it's a big project, and I think that what I've read so far, bro, what you've typed up, it's like really good. So I feel like that when we drop it, it is going to be one of our.
Not had the chance to read it so far, but it sounds pretty fire.
We'll share it with you.
Yeah, we'll share the doc with you. It's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, we've only got I think Atlanta and the Red Bulls.
Ooh.
But
so just like team profiles.
Yeah, we're going through how the current pause in MLS is affecting teams, and how they had started in the season.
Yeah, which by the way, I learned that fairly recently. YouTube has been demonetizing if we say the big C virus word, so we have to. I know it's weird. I heard that they're gonna start fixing that soon, but we do have to be careful with YouTube automatically filtering now. So if you hear us say,
I'm not even surprised.
If you hear us say the pause, that means that we're talking about that. So
right.
Yeah. But yeah, it's really interesting though how YouTube has handled this, which I don't really want to get into that because that's not what this podcast is about. But like,
that's right.
It's really it's really interesting because of course they had to send all their employees home, so they're relying on their automatic system, which is a disaster. So it's been interesting to watch that happen from afar. So, but yeah, do we have a first topic? What was our first topic?
Yeah, so I think that what's going to take a lot of our episode tonight is we want to discuss why every team in MLS could possibly win MLS Cup once it's back for the season. So I think, hopefully. I know Trump did talk to Garber today.
I saw that. They said they want teams back in stadiums by June, and they want fans back in stadiums by August or September. I personally still think it's unrealistic.
But I do too. But you know, like I read today. Sorry, get off topic. But Italy didn't have any new confirmed cases today.
Oh, that's
good news.
That's definitely good.
Yeah.
But then again, they have been government mandating a lockdown for the past month. So
that is true.
Yeah.
In the U.S., we have not government mandated. We have only suggested.
I I think that some state it's a state thing, It's again it comes to state rights,
Oh yeah, it's a total U.S. political mess, but
Exactly.
that's just how it is in the U.S. nowadays.
Exactly. But sorry, off topic. We're gonna get back on topic.
Yes.
Why every MLS team could win MLS Cup this season? We're just gonna look at like even the teams that may not have a realistic chance. We're gonna look at them and we're gonna give you a reason why we think they could win MLS Cup. All right.
Should we start?
So,
I feel like
Are
we
we
should.
all
Oh, sorry.
are we all giving our takes on each team individually as we go down this list, or what?
Yeah.
I
So
think
are
with
we-
teams that are good enough to win it, we could give like multiple takes. But then with
If
teams,
we're all in agreement, then we'll just move on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
are
unless
we doing
somebody has,
alphabetical order?
Yeah. Or I thought we should go from the bottom of the table up. I thought that would be a
Okay.
good way to do it.
okay, yeah.
So bottom of the table. Oh, there's actually a few teams tied for bottom of the table, but we'll start in the Eastern Conference. Let's go New York City FC.
New York City FC. All right, who wants? I can start off.
You're the host, so
Go ahead.
So NYCFC, surprising to see them at the bottom.
Oh,
I must say, because they are, they're your residential powerhouses usually since coming into the league in what was it like 2015, I think.
I believe so. Yeah.
So they started off the season with 2 losses, one to Toronto and then the other one to Columbus, both 1-0 losses.
Yeah, they were both 1-0, which is
So yeah,
interesting.
I think that if there's any positives to take away from the NYCF season so far, it's that they have put all their eggs in the CONCACAF Champions League bracket.
Yes, 100%.
Basket, not bracket. They're focusing. They're trying to win that, become the first MLS team to win the CONCACAF Champions League, and they're doing an all right job of it so far. They're only down 1-0 to Tigres.
But they're going into a hard away stadium, so
Yeah.
Well, of course that is if the competition resumes at this point.
Exactly. So I think that NYCFC fans, if there are any out there that are listening, you don't need to worry. They're focusing on the CONCACAF Champions League, and I think that with time we will see them return to the top of the East.
Oh, 100%. I think that New York City's always been, ever since 2015, one of like the big Eastern Conference teams. Of course, apart from those first 2 years, they were trying to figure themselves out. But I think right now it's obviously the CONCACAF fever is what I like to call it, is when MLS teams try to put all their energy towards CONCACAF. Of course, we saw it with KC last year, and it ended up burning them out. But I think with NYC, they have pretty decent squad and youth depth, and I think that that's something that could definitely carry them forward in the second half of the season, I think. Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah.
But
Jack? Anything?
both of you were pretty much on absolute topic there, and really, we'll cut that out. So I lost track of what I was going to say, and you're both right, and you're both absolutely pinpoint on what you were saying, and it's they are throwing a lot of their eggs into the basket with CONCACAF, and I mean, a lot of MLS teams do it because there's a lot on the line to prove that they are better than Mexican teams and the other Central American teams. And New York City, they have a really strong team with Alexander Ring in the midfield and Keaton Parks coming on loan from Benfica. So
yeah.
Heber up front as well.
Oh,
Big
yes.
fan of Heber.
He's in my fantasy
mean,
team.
it really is a strong team, and there's nothing to worry about at all with them starting out the year the way they have. And I mean, it's not bad. 2 1-0 losses. There's nothing wrong with that. That's very okay, even with all the other results that they're focused on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I will say that in the Columbus loss, it took a Zelarayan absolute golazo to sink NYCFC.
That is true.
That goal was insane. I remember seeing it.
Yeah, curler from like 15 yards just into the
Yes,
opposite
sir.
corner. Vela, I'd say it was like a Vela goal,
It was
Oh,
a
yeah.
beautiful goal.
That
It was, yeah.
That guy's insane, but we'll get to that when we get to Columbus. Next up in the Eastern Conference table, though, we're going to go ahead and move on, is Inter Miami. I'm going to start us off. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. That's a pretty bold prediction, but I would say that they're not making the playoffs.
You got any reason for that?
I don't know. They just, again, I feel like they're very just disjointed. I think that in the second half of the season, they might start to find their flow, but of course, we've talked about in the first podcast they were pretty rushed into the league. I think that, in my opinion, Miami should have waited maybe a year until their stadium was like official in construction and all that. But they were pretty rushed into the league. And I think that at the moment they're really struggling to find what kind of team they want to be, because they're going to be playing in a football stadium down in Miami for the next 2 years I think it is now, because they still haven't started on, or they might
this year.
Yeah.
It's
Are
just
they
this
at
year.
the
Is it
Hard
just
Rock
this
Stadium?
year?
Yeah, they're the hard. No, are they at the Hard Rock? I thought they were like some
I guess
college stadium, like Florida Atlantic or
Oh,
something.
like are they at University of Miami?
They could be, but I don't actually know where they play.
I don't
haven't
know.
watched either Miami game this year.
but anyways, I think they have the talent to definitely be an MLS like juggernaut. I think that they have the talent to do that. That's a bold statement from me.
Yeah,
Because you look at Rodolfo Pizarro, and you got the young backline. They got Jorge Figal, who's their backbone at the moment. But I think that all it takes for them is just a year of getting to joint together, or getting to gel together, and I think that after a year they're a better team. But this year, I think that this is like New York City. I think that their first year is probably not going to be their strongest year in club history.
Okay,
no, yeah, I agree. Miami, they have a really strong team on paper, but there's a lot that isn't gonna work because, like you said, it's their first year, and no one's really expecting this team to go places. But give them one full season, and then next year, I think you could talk about playoff contention.
100%.
I think that since we're trying to say why each MLS team could win MLS Cup, I think that Inter Miami could
True.
win MLS Cup because they've got the back. I again, I agree with a lot of what you guys have said. I do think that Miami have done an excellent job in tapping into their Latin American fan base.
100%. I think that's
Miami
a good point.
Is historically has a very big Latin American community, and we saw that at the Super Bowl this year, which was also in Miami. They had J-Lo and Shakira perform, and it brought the house down.
Yeah, we don't talk about that here. That's a different day. That's a different story.
Inter Miami have come into the league and they've tapped into their fan base. So if there's any reason for Inter Miami to win MLS Cup, it's that they have the support of this very strong fan base of a new team. Because again, Florida didn't have a team. I mean, Orlando, but Miami didn't have a team. And it's not like Miami sharing a city with a team like LAFC were with the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So LAFC, another example of a team that has done exceptionally well in tapping into their fan base. So I think that if not this season, in a couple seasons, we will see a fan base in Miami like we have seen in Los Angeles Football Club.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I for sure think as soon as that stadium gets built in Miami, that it's gonna pack the house down, and that's gonna be one of the toughest places to play on the road. And I mean, they have the likes of Roman Torres on that team. They have
I forgot they had him.
Pellegrini from Argentina this year, the 19-year-old midfielder that's really going to be solid if he sticks around. Pizarro, he's going to lead the way. I mean,
they have
Luis Robles, Lee Win. I forgot about those two.
Alvis Powell from Jamaica. There's a lot of influence there.
A lot of experience.
Fans. Yeah, and MLS experience as well.
Will Trapp.
Ben Sweet, Luis Robles, the former Red Bulls keeper. I mean, Will Trapp is there. I already said Uola, but he played for Dallas. AJ De La Graza, Jay Chapman. I mean, there's players that have been around the league, and Juan Agudelo. I mean, he's even played for the U.S. national team. So there's a lot here that's they know how MLS works, and they can play well in MLS. I think that if they squeak into a playoff spot this year, it could potentially go places. I mean, I'm not saying that it's a 100% chance. It's not. There's not any team with a 100% chance of making it all into the playoffs.
One team that's done it, I believe, is the Chicago Fire in their first year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. back in
And
98. I want to say it was 98.
now I will say this: Miami have also done a very good job of combining that experience, which you need for a new team,
yes.
with adding Diego Alonso, an experienced coach. He's coached in Uruguay, Mexico. He's won the CONCACAF Champions League. And they've also been able to mix in those youngsters, like you said with Pellegrini, but also Robbie Robinson, who they started up top this season. And I think that he went down injured in the game against DC. But I think that with this break, he'll be able to come back because he was showing signs of that he can be their striker for the future. He was making these beautiful runs in behind. It just took a little bit more. If the teams were more bonded, were more used to playing with each other, then I feel like he would have been found more often. But I feel like with this break and when MLS comes back and Robbie Robinson is healthy again, he will be a youngster to look out for, kind of like burst onto the scene, kind of like how Jordan Morris did a couple years ago.
100%. We should probably move on from Miami.
Move on, yeah.
For time's sake, because we've been talking about them a lot.
Miami is fun to talk about, though.
They really are.
They've got an
they're a fun team to talk. They're a fun team to talk about, but we're gonna move on to another fun team to talk about. We're gonna talk about FC Cincinnati.
No.
That was sarcasm. They are. Let's all agree, they're a mess. They're a mess. Right?
I'm so sorry, Cincinnati fans. I really am, bro.
I think the one thing that and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Jack, but I just want to get this out there.
That's fine.
I think the one thing that I think could win Cincinnati MLS Cup is, I mean, I want to say just get it together, but I mean, obviously it's harder than it sounds.
Just be good.
Be good.
Just do better, bro.
But I think it's their signings. They made some pretty big signings in the offseason. I mean, Medinjanin I don't even know how you pronounce that name, but
they got him from Philly.
From Philly, yeah. He was their big signing. Was it what was the Japanese kid? What was his name?
Yuya Kubo.
Yes, Yuya Kubo. I remember his FIFA card a few years back. That's why I remembered him. And then, of course, Locadia from Hoffenheim was a sensational signing.
But Locadia's Brighton. He was he loaned out to Hoffenheim?
He was. Yes, he was.
Yeah,
my apologies.
He is from Brighton.
But
that's fine.
They had an incident with their coach, and that really turned the squad into this weird mode because it was 2 weeks. I think it was like a week. Was it 2 weeks?
It was like the weekend before MLS opening.
The weekend before opening weekend, they fired their coach, which obviously they had reason to do it. We're not going to get into that. But they fired their coach, and it was a shock to the system, and it really brought Cincinnati down. So that's why Cincinnati would not win. But again, like I said, I think that Cincinnati, if there's anything that can rally this team together, it is those players that they brought in the offseason. Locadia, Medinjan, and Kubo. Those three guys, I think, could really bring this team together. Yeah.
Their use of the transfer market, I think, is what makes them... It's sort of become their thing at Cincinnati. Because, as you mentioned, they signed Locadia, they signed Yuya Kubo. They also signed Sim De Jong, who I think has kind of flown under the radar.
Oh, my gosh, Sim De Jong.
Talk about that.
Yeah, he of course played at Newcastle for a long time, and then
he went to
was it PSV?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I think he's also had stints at Ajax. So he's traveled around Europe. He's played in many big European teams. I'm just gonna say it's interesting to see this sort of Dutch Eredivisie connection that Cincinnati seemed to have with the league.
I think
signing players that have played there or were currently playing there before they signed for Cincinnati. So their use of the transfer market, I think, is what makes them what gives them a shot at the playoffs is their signings.
Definitely.
Yeah, I want to elaborate on that Dutch connection because I'm looking and they have Michael van der Werf. He's also Dutch, and Locadia is also Dutch as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they have the trio of Dutch players all on each level of play. And they also have a lot of MLS experienced players as well. Like Greg Garza plays for them. Abdul Salam went to Cincinnati this year.
Our God.
Kendall Watson.
Yeah, Nick Hagland. I mean, there's a lot of players here for Cincinnati that if the team finds its wheels and starts moving under their new coach, they could potentially be a playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
They just have to come together as one. I think that's the only thing standing between them and the shot at the MLS Cup.
Yeah, I hate to make a sporting connection before we move on, but the one thing that I said when I watched Cincinnati play Atlanta, I believe it was, is that who they played week 1, week 2, something like that.
Yeah.
I felt like they looked a little bit like we did in like the middle of last season, the way that Sporting played last season. And I say that because we had a shock to the system. Their shock to the system was losing their coach to a very just unfathomable circumstance. Ours was our loss against Monterrey, which, yeah, I mean,
we don't talk about that.
We don't talk about
Didn't
that.
happen.
We got whooped.
Didn't happen.
But
don't speak, bro.
But I don't know. I kind of got that feeling from Cincinnati when I watched them play Atlanta. They looked like they were a little bit lost out there, like something had just happened to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna move on from Cincinnati because again we keep talking too long about these teams. We're moving to the West now. The only 0-point team in the West is Nashville.
Oh boy.
I'll let one of you start.
I'm still up.
Nashville.
I'm still upset with Nashville. I will say that because of who they took and Jimmy Bedranda.
Yes, and
I am.
And Adrian Zendejas.
But so Nashville, looking at their team and who else they picked in the expansion draft and who they've signed in free agency, they have a very solid team with a lot of MLS experience.
Oh yes,
like
Zimmerman.
They have the likes of Dax McCarty, Derek Jones, former Philadelphia player. I think he played for the Union.
Yeah.
Baji, he used to play for Dallas and Colorado.
Love it.
Anibaba, David Accam.
Who? Anibaba?
Bro, it is definitely Baba. That is okay.
Bro, he played for Sporting. Come on.
I know, bro. He's one of those forgotten players nobody remembers.
Respect Anibaba, bro.
Okay.
I will, bro. Anyways, but David Accam, let's think about that one. That is a good player. He was very fun to watch for Chicago there for a little while. And they also have Zendejas and Walker Zimmerman.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's a lot of pieces on this team that could really, I think, take Nashville into the playoffs.
100%.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You want to talk about it?
Getting the phone call, bro. I want to talk about that real quick.
Hey, we're going to cut it. It's okay.
Okay. Nashville. Yeah, Nashville.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I again, expansion teams first year usually are not that great. But
no.
I mean, Nashville has a solid roster, a very solid roster. And I was gonna talk about Zimmerman. That's what I was gonna talk about. Zimmerman, I think he can be the guy that leads them forward. And with Dax McCarty, they just have a lot of experience in that area of the pitch, and I think that's what's gonna lead them forward. Will they make the playoffs this year? I doubt it. But I think that talk to me in a couple years' time, and I will definitely tell you that Nashville are going to be a pretty consistent playoff team.
Yeah, the thing about Nashville is like I look at their roster and I just don't see anyone that's like a game changer, you know?
Yeah,
respects Dax McCarty.
I was gonna say Yanis Mukhtar. A lot of people did not.
I will say I'm a big fan of Mukhtar. You know, he had that. He won Swedish Player of the Year just a couple years ago.
Yes.
Or like Swedish League player because he's obviously German. But you know, I see a lot of utility players, a lot of players that do their jobs and they do their jobs well. It's just that they don't stand out in what they do.
And I think that in a couple years' time they'll definitely try to go for one of those big DP signings. I just think that this year they were kind of trying to build up just an experienced squad. So that way, in the next couple of years, when they're only signing a few players rather than a whole roster, they're bringing in players that they can fix specific points on the pitch rather than trying to get like amazing players for the entire team at once, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I like what they've done. I think that they've done well in getting the getting their utility players. I feel like they will be forced to go into the DP market and get like a Polito or like a Chicharito at some point, just because
100%.
that's how the power curve is in MLS.
Yeah.
But for right now, they've got a good, strong basis, and that is what they can build upon.
I think, at the moment, their roster is just a base. I think they're going to build upon that roster and start switching things around next year and the year after that. But, once again, we're going to move on just for time's
Who
sake.
is Nashville's starting goalkeeper? Are they rolling with Joe Willis, or are they actually playing
I think it's Joe Willis, remember?
It is
Oh my god,
Because of that
bro.
non-red card in week 1.
That is so depressing.
Okay.
Zendejas, bro, what happened?
But moving up, we're going to talk about a team that we all hate, the Houston Dynamo.
I was hoping we was going to Philadelphia next.
Let's just be quick on this one because, I think we all...
They suck. Houston,
suck.
you were
They're
bad.
terrible.
I think
Relegate.
that... No, okay.
Disintegrate. Liquidate. You're done.
Okay. I think the one thing that carries them forward hypothetically that would carry them forward into the playoffs is Tab Ramos. I think that we can all agree on that here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think Tab Ramos as their coach was probably the smartest hiring decision in the offseason
Ever.
I think. It was a good decision. Is this going to be their year? No, I think this is Tab Ramos' year. I hate to keep saying it, but this is his year to experiment and just see what gels and what doesn't. And if it gets them to the playoffs, then hell, that's good for them. But I think that at the moment, this is just Tab Ramos' year to experiment. But yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing on that team that stands out as in, like, this is going to really make them stand above the rest of the West.
I'd say, like, Albert Elise, and that's it. I think that's really... That's like
the only players that are, like, potentially going to do damage is, like, Quintero and Ramirez up front because they have MLS experience and paralysis in the box.
I kind of forgot about Quintero.
Quintero's like 33 also. I had no idea.
No, he's not. What?
He's 32, bro.
You're lying to me, bro.
No, he's 5'5", 142, 33.
He's 32 years old.
Yeah.
What? He's so quick. Though.
Christian Ramirez is 29 as well. Like,
what?
Yeah, now I knew that much.
That is crazy.
The only player that really I think would do really good for them is Matias Vera.
Ooh.
I think that's their key player.
Yeah.
But like you said, I don't think that Houston really are gonna do damage this year.
Mm-hmm.
But they do really have a really good head coach now, and that's gonna really change the face of that program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do we each one just want to like talk about a team at once?
No, I like this. This is a good format.
Okay.
We're gonna keep rolling with it.
I just want to say one thing if you're listening. Whatever rolled up at Children's Mercy Park was not the answer.
No, it was not. Gotti King to destroyed y'all.
Gotti King is a baller.
He
Gotti
really
King
is.
is the best player.
We'll talk about that. We're gonna talk about him last because we're
on top.
Yes,
I need
we
my
are.
Daily Prince, bro.
Okay.
So is it Philadelphia or San Jose next?
San Jose because they have just one lower goal differential. But then
They've allowed 7 goals in 2 games.
Unbelievable.
Oh my God!
Here's the thing.
San Jose.
Here's the thing. They, besides Minnesota and Sporting, they are tied for 3rd in goals scored. But
San Jose.
But they are bottom of the league in goals allowed. It's insane.
Yeah, because Minnesota rocked up there and Iko Parra got a double.
Iko Parra goated.
Yes. San Jose's defense is still just
abysmal.
It's not good. And I hate to say that because Alanis is a decent player. I just don't think that San Jose has still found their rebrand, if that makes any sense. Because, of course, when they rebranded a few years ago with their new stadium, it just didn't feel like there was the same San Jose Earthquakes team that made the playoffs every year on and off.
With Lando, you know?
Yeah. And now it's just like San Jose are just bad. Like, everyone just kind of accepts San Jose is bad. And I just don't know what they're going for at this point.
I will say that they've come close to making the playoffs. If I remember correctly, in the past 2 seasons, they've just missed out. It's come down to decision day.
I think I do remember that, and I feel like we were the ones that beat them out to the playoffs for some reason.
Yeah, and then
a couple years ago.
And then Portland beat them on decision day, and that counted them out as well.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that now. Yeah, you're right. But still, it's like I just don't understand what San Jose is trying to be right now. I think that's
Yeah.
their big problem.
So they have like an identity problem.
An identity crisis, I'd say, at this point.
Crisis. I will say, one thing that San Jose fans can count on is that they have Chris Wondolowski,
Yes.
who
big
has
man.
walked this league for like 15 years now,
Almost, something like that.
and secondly, Matias Almeida he's batshit crazy.
He is an amazing coach. Yeah,
He gets results.
he does.
He is like everything that they need in a coach.
I will give them credit at that. I still just think that San Jose they're still a mess right now. If they find this year what kind of team they're trying to be, then they'll probably make the playoffs. But until then, I don't see it at all. But yeah, we're gonna move on to the team that Jack has been wanting to talk about, Philadelphia.
So I do want to say something about San Jose. They have Nick Lino. That's probably one of the better left backs in the game. I really like how he plays.
Is he left back?
And he is. He plays left for them.
Left and right back.
Yeah, he plays left on. And then they also have Christian Espinoza from Argentina that they brought in, and he is a baller. So
He's very
San
good.
Jose, they have pieces on the team. They don't have a very large quantity of pieces, but the quality is there. With Wando, I will never forgive him for 2014. Espinoza in the midfield and Lima on the back line. And their coach, like, he gets results, like Josh said. It's going to be fun if they can find footing in the league with this team that they put out. I think that they might be able to squeak in, and it'll be fun to see them make a push this year.
Mm-hmm. All right, we are 32 minutes in already, so
That's not that bad. We have an hour.
We might have
We
to
can
go,
just
like,
talk about this. So
part
this could be our
one and
only
part-
topic today.
We can do like a part 1 and part 2 also.
Yeah, that too.
Okay. But anyways, moving on. Philadelphia.
Yes,
Jackie, you wanted to talk
Philadelphia.
about them.
So Philadelphia, oh my God, Philadelphia is probably one of the most fun teams in the East for me. They have Andre Blake in goal. They have former Casey man, Arlen Collin. Yeah, they have a lot of fun pieces on this team. I mean,
Mackenzie.
they started out. Yeah. Well, sorry. You can go ahead. Go ahead.
I was trying to think because they sold Trusty. I can't remember which one they sold.
They did.
Yeah.
But like, they started out the year with only 1 point, which that's not terrible in 2 games. I mean, they had 3. Hold up, is it? Oh no, it's 5 goals allowed and 3 goals scored. There we go. So they did get a draw, which is not bad. I mean,
The draw in LA.
that's was that the Galaxy or
It
LAFC?
was a 3-all.
It was
With
LAFC.
Oh, that was a game.
That was that the last game before the pause? I believe?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
That
was.
that was a hell of a game to finish out on.
Exactly.
I really do think Philadelphia can make a really strong push in the East. The East is not that strong outside of a few teams, and I think they could probably squeak into that 4 spot.
100%. I think the one thing that propels them forward this year is that they are. I don't know how else to phrase it except for that they are consistent. I think that just like if you look all around the pitch, their quality of play is just very consistent, and I don't know how else to phrase it. It's just that's just how I feel it looks whenever I watch Philadelphia. Is that like if the offense is doing good, then the defense is going to do good as a result. If the defense is doing bad, then the offense might not score as many goals.
Yeah.
But also, then you look at games that are outliers like LAFC, where their defense was just atrocious, but their offense was on fire. And you start to think, maybe this Philadelphia team is taking a turn this year. And maybe that's weird because their defense was awful, but their offense, I think that their offense is finally starting to come together this year.
Yeah, I like Jack. I'm a big fan of Philadelphia, and one of those reasons is that Jim Curtin plays his kids.
Yes.
The Philadelphia head coach has figured out a way to perfectly mix up this play your kids movement with the experience. So you've got players like Alejandro Bedoya and Kasper Schibelko, who's also not Schibelko's not that old, might I add.
Yeah.
But
Well,
then they
he's not
have
that young either. He's 27.
yeah, he's like in his prime. But then they also have like
Yeah.
Brendan Aronson and Jack Elliott and Sergio Santos, who are just round out the youngster, the sort of youngster feel of the team. And they went to Los Angeles and they played out a 3-3 with probably the best free kick I've ever seen from Jakob Glesnes.
Yes, that was. Oh, we need
40-yard
we need to have a goal of the year nominee episode once once the
That'd be at the end of the year.
yeah, at the end of the year.
But that is in my contention for sure.
that
'Cause, yeah.
goal was insane.
I had forgotten that they were on, so I turned on the game, and like right as I turned it on, Glesnes hit that free kick, and I was like, "Yeah, okay, this is MLS culture." And like MLS Twitter was blowing up at midnight on a Sunday,
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
insane.
So I'm a big fan of Jim Curtin. I'm a big fan of his Play Your Kids movement and the way he plays. And when everything's aren't going right, they're able to look at the bench in the 70th minute and just say, Ilsinho, come do your thing. And he does his thing,
He does his thing. Yeah, I think that's definitely it for Philadelphia.
Yeah, I have high hopes for the Union.
I do.
For once, in like the last 5 years, I actually look forward to seeing what the Union can do.
I actually like to watch the Union play. It's crazy.
I know, 2020 is a weird year, and now look at us.
It's a weird year.
We're
Oh, no. No, I know who's next. I don't like it.
Yep, we all know it's Orlando.
Oh,
And the next is even worse. Oh my god.
The next is a little bit better.
Not really. I mean, not by much.
Orlando, I think we should be
I
quick
don't-
with Orlando because
Yeah, you're
we-
bad. You're
we-
never winning anything. Don
all-
Dwyer's washed up. You're done. Liquidate.
I think, like Josh said, the only thing that I think can really propel. Josh said that you said this before the podcast. In fact, I'll let you just say it now because I don't want to steal. it.
Orlando Stadium's dope.
And I was gonna elaborate on that a little bit. I think Orlando's fan culture is the one thing that I think could probably make their players think, just like, oh crap, we need to actually play good.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that being said, they have not exactly sold out their stadium these past, or like since 2018. It hasn't been that pretty, if we're being honest.
Since Kaká left, really.
Yeah, I mean, when he retired, I think a lot of the fans just kind of thought like, hey, there's not really a spark to this team, and they're kind of right. There's not any huge. I mean, Nani, I think obviously was their big signing that I think I thought would bring people back into the stadium. It did not, and that's the unfortunate part, is that they signed such a big player and they have some big stars like I hate to say big for Dom Dwyer, but and
Yeah.
Mauricio Pereira, the Uruguayan. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, Orlando's just not making the playoffs again this year. So we're gonna move on.
Did you know that Dom Dwyer is from a town called Field? Yeah. Just learned that right now. And
When you listen to Designated Pod, you learn.
random facts, bro.
the
Yeah, Nani joining Orlando, that was... I don't even really want to call him like a superstar in Europe.
I
Like-
don't know. I'd say it was.
He's had a respected career, I will
Man
admit
United.
that.
With Man United, he was insane.
Yeah,
Under
but then he
Ferguson.
just fell off and went back to what, like, Sporting Lisbon? Like,
Yeah. I think
He was at
so.
Lazio for a little bit as well.
Oh yeah.
yeah. Nah, you forget about that because Lazio's kind of racist and no one talks about Lazio. We all hate Lazio.
We're gonna move on.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, one thing I want to say about Orlando is that
Liquidate.
they play in Florida in August, so that's a home field advantage if I've ever heard of it.
all those mosquitoes.
God, we're gonna die. We're gonna lose 4-0 Dom Dwyer hat trick. I've seen the light.
He's gonna do a backflip every time, bro. It's gonna be.
Don't make me vomit, bro.
Cookfield, England, the natural goal scorer. Oh my god. Anyways,
It made me
who's next?
get a migraine thinking about that. The New England Revolution are next.
Oh god.
I'm gonna give credit where credit is due. Bruce Arena has built a somewhat competent team. Carlos Gil and Gustavo Bo are definitely two signings that needed to be made in New England, 100%.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah, I like Gustavo Bou a lot. That was a really smart signing.
But in this offseason, have New England signed? I can't remember if New England have signed anybody like.
Respect Seth Sinovic this instant.
That is a good point. That is a very good point. But that also is going to feed into a negative point that I was going to bring up.
And they also kept Kellen Rowe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was looking at their.
We're not going to
off-season-
talk about that trade. No. All right, keep moving.
Rubio.
Continue.
We're
No,
done with the Revs.
no. You can say what you have to say, but we're not talking about the Kellen Rowe for trade and Kellen Rowe going back to
No. We don't talk about that.
We don't. Keep moving. Keep
Okay,
moving.
but the one thing that propels Orlando forward this year is Bruce Arena. I think.
New England.
Yeah,
Yeah, New England.
New England.
If
The
anything
Revs.
takes them to the playoffs, it's Bruce Arena.
Yes. He's been there before. He's got the experience. He won Coach of the Year not too long ago.
Was it a few times or no? I can't remember.
Oh, I think he's won it multiple times.
Yeah, but
Honestly, he's got a reputation here in MLS.
the man's a legend. I think.
Yeah, that I think
there.
only like a couple coaches ever can sit, like Siggy Schmid.
Yeah, I was gonna
and
say
Peter-
Siggy Schmidt.
May he rest
Peter
in peace.
Vermees. Yes, rest in peace, Siggy Schmidt. But yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah.
think the one thing that propels him forward, it's Bruce Arena. I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think the three pieces the Revs need to rely on in the Bruce Arena are going to be Gustavo Bo, obviously, and then in the midfield, Diego
Carlos Gil.
Fagundes,
Oh.
and Carlos Gil. Both of them, I think, behind Gustavo, that is going to be the big thing for New England to rely on going forward.
100%. Okay.
And Los Angeles,
Yeah, next up we got
the Galaxy.
We got
Carson
the Galaxy. I don't know. I'll let one of you guys talk about it before I go off.
Josh, you can have the floor.
Oh, I hate you, bro. The LA Galaxy. Now look,
Liquidate.
every team, bro.
Dude, every team needs to go. I've only mentioned it 3 times. I will. All right, I'll take the floor. Okay. So the Galaxy, bringing in Chicharito, that was smart to get the hometown crowd excited.
Yes.
That would bring in a lot of Hispanic culture, like Los Angeles, the better Los Angeles team did. Well, I mean, they also brought in Jonathan Dos Santos, a year ago?
Yeah.
And then they brought in Giovanni
that was
3 years ago
few years
before letting him
ago.
go back to. Where does he play now?
I think he's gonna
Club
Club
America.
Club America?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if Chicharito can adapt to the MLS play style, that is all it needs, or that's all it takes for LA, the Galaxy, to go to the playoffs and to have a
agree.
shot in the playoffs.
I was gonna say Christian Pavone. I think he's one of their big guys that could propel them forward.
Yeah,
He's.
I like Pavone a lot.
I think
he's under the radar.
I think
Yeah.
if he gets a good stint in at the Galaxy again this year, I see him going over to Europe pretty easily. Just like he is a big, or not a big. I would say he's just a very talented young player. I think that's the main thing. I could see him fitting in over in like Italy or Spain or somewhere like that.
He's only 24. Oh my god!
I know
thought he
he's
was older than
he's
that.
good. People, I remember back in like one of the FIFA 17, I think, career mode, he had like 90 potential or something, which obviously it's fallen off since then, but he's a talented young kid, and I think that he should definitely be the guy that the Galaxy rely on until Chicharito finds his form.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Shalato, I think that's their coach, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
I think you're right.
Yeah, he just got to figure out that they don't have Zlatan.
It was Galato. Yep.
They cannot cross 200 times into the box and expect Chicharito to thrive like Zlatan did.
That was a big problem in their first game against Houston as well.
Yeah, because how many they had, like, what, 50 something crosses,
It was a disaster.
and only about, and I think it was something like 13% completion, something like that. So if the Galaxy can figure out that they no longer have Zlatan, who basically was just he stood still, you fed the ball to him, and then he would do Zlatan things.
Mm-hmm.
Once they realize that Chicharito is a different player who thrives off a different kind of service, then the Galaxy will be able to propel themselves up the standings, I think, because they still got they've kept a lot of their players, but they've still been able to bring in new players like Chicharito, and they should be able to, with their player base, with their coach, propel themselves up the standings.
100%. I think you look at their roster; they've got some fairly good players. I mean, even outside of Chicharito, Pavón, Dos Santos, they got Efrain Alvarez, Sebastian Leget's pretty decent, Julian Araujo. Alexander Katai. I forgot he went there.
Yeah.
But
They also signed Emiliano Insua at left back.
oh yes.
Got
He is
Stuttgart.
very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
The point is though, they have the talent to be that Galaxy team that was a dynasty. They have that talent right now. I just think it's going to take a little bit of a push, and like you said, it's going to take realizing that they don't have a Zlatan or Beckham type superstar right now. They have Chicharito, which is a huge star, obviously in North America, but they don't have a player that was the caliber of Zlatan or Beckham anymore. They need to realize that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zlatan, if you're listening to this, by the way, I'm glad you're gone. You were a fraud. You were nothing.
How many trophies did you win here, bro?
Talk crap on our league. We ain't gonna give you the same. We're not gonna give
Dear
you.
LA, you're welcome. Like, who do you think you are?
Bro won one playoff.
You didn't even win a cup, bro. You were trash. Matt Beasler's better than you.
Matt Beasler's got a bigger legacy here.
I mean, is that hard? Is that like?
No.
That should be expected.
I can't believe the next team we're talking about. I'm looking at their roster right now, and I'm just in awe at how bad it is.
Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago.
Yes, sir.
Tell me one exciting thing about Chicago, please. Like, the only player I really know on this team, besides a few MLS veterans, is like Alvaro Medran from Valencia.
Okay,
like that is it.
I'm
Mihailovic from. Oh my God, he's not even American, but he's American.
I'm gonna give credit and then bash on Chicago. Chicago.
Can you even give credit to this team, bro?
I will. We're gonna find out. They did what a lot of MLS teams have been doing, and that was bring in South American youth. They brought in, I don't know if he's very young, but Gaston Jimenez. He's 28, so I mean, that's young for MLS. But then they brought in Ignacio Aliseda, who is a very exciting youth prospect from Argentina. They brought in Robert Beric, who is a veteran European striker.
Yeah, he's good.
Alvaro Medran, we already talked about. Bobby Shuttleworth. I believe that's it.
Shuttleworth. I haven't heard that name in years.
So they definitely. I don't think they did nothing this offseason. I think that would be a stretch, but they try to rebrand. And the word I must put emphasis on is tried, because it failed. I mean, when you have your entire fan base, the entire league, the entire world bashing on your shitty looking Photoshop of a new badge, and just everybody saying that moving to Soldier Field is a bad idea, and you still follow through with it. Come on. Like,
king behavior, bro.
Yeah, so whoever designed the logo for the Fire, I hope you were fired and never are employed again. That is the worst logo in MLS by far.
It's awful. It's horrible.
I just want to tell me otherwise.
I don't
like,
think.
What kind of drugs is that? Like, were you on? That's like.
I said it looks like they had a nice logo and then stretched it out and got rid of everything that was good in it.
It's so bad.
But yeah, Chicago. They've been a mess for the past few years, but this year I don't know how they're gonna even like start a rebrand, because you can't even get your fan base to fill up like a third of your previous stadium. Why do you think you're gonna fill Soldier Field?
One of the most iconic stadiums in the U.S.
One of the large, not one of the largest, but I think it's a huge stadium.
And everyone knows Soldier Field because of the Bears and all the history there. Like, I think that was the move they were going to try to draw in Bears fans to come watch this team in the off season for the NFL. But like, Chicago just
it's not a huge soccer like.
No. There's too much going on there, especially with the Bulls. Everyone goes to the Bulls games. There's the Blackhawks,
the White Sox,
and the White Sox and the Cubs as well. Baseball is about to start. Like, it was a bad move on their part to even attempt to try to fill up Soldier Field. And this team, there's nothing really exciting on that team.
That's another big thing. They're moving to a huge stadium, and they do not have a superstar player to attract any fans.
No, they don't have
and that is a huge problem with this team.
They don't even have a 20-plus goal scorer on their team. They
Definitely
have
not. I think their best like chance at a big goal scorer is Robert Barrich, which, let's be honest, even though he's an
that
experienced
might
European,
get you a dozen.
he's not that caliber.
No,
He's got a goal this year already, though.
He does.
Yeah.
I mean, all credit where credit is due. He's a good player. He's just not the player that Chicago needs to fill up Soldier Field.
Because again, this is Chicago. You know, one of the most iconic cities in the United States. They've always been a huge sports city. You know,
100%.
so they have the market to make a great team
100%.
with a great logo, but they don't.
But yeah,
in all honesty, I think Chicago should relocate now. At this point, like out of Chicago, there's too much, and the market's dead for the Fire. I think it's time to find a new home.
What'd we say? What cities did we say last episode? Maybe we can put it one of them.
I said Tampa, but they already have a USL team.
I
You
said
said
Vegas.
Boise.
Boise. Let's take them up to Boise.
Bro, no.
100%.
And then, like, who said no? Someone said Hawaii. You did.
said
And then you
Hawaii.
said Boise. Yeah. And then what did? Oh,
go watch our
What did Jacob say?
last episode to find out what Jacob said.
yeah. I don't actually remember what he said because it wasn't important and it was wrong. It was bad.
Anyways, we're gonna move on. I believe the
Hate
next
the
team
guy, bro.
on 2 points is RSL.
This is the only team on 2 points, by the way.
Yes, the only team on 2 points.
And I can't believe you're making us talk about this team.
We're not gonna talk about them for long. I honestly just want to get. Okay.
I'll go first.
We're all
So-
gonna agree they're not making the playoffs.
Real Salt Lake. Your stadium's in a bad location. You have no hope. The only player on your team is Rusnak, and he's probably going to leave very soon.
Mhm.
Your future's done.
Don't they still have Demi Krylock?
They do
Actually,
Oh, just have
David
Rossi.
Ochoa is probably going to be okay, like, in a couple years.
Let's be
He's
honest.
19.
Let's be honest.
bad at FIFA though.
Outside
He's
of,
very bad at FIFA. We don't
Out-
talk about
let's
that.
be honest. Outside of Salt Lake, this team, I think, would be decent. Krylock, Rusnak, Unwoha, Merrim, Beckerman, Rossi, Toya.
Did they still have? No, they sold Brooks Lennon. Didn't
Yes.
Yeah, Everton Louise, Corey Baird,
Where
Ochoa,
did Brooks
Glad.
Lennon go?
he went to
Uh,
Atlanta
Atlanta.
because he was like
oh my
the
god.
Julie Gressel replacement.
But anyways, moving quickly so we can get through this. Outside of Salt Lake, this team's decent. I
Yeah.
just don't see this team in the playoffs. And I've said this for the past few years, is that I just don't see Salt Lake making the playoffs. And sometimes they've proven me wrong, but I just don't see it being this year for them.
They're a bank average team.
They really are.
They
One
have a
thing-
couple of good players, but they are just average.
One thing I will say about RSL is that in their draw against New York,
Mhm.
they dominated the game. They outshot New York almost more than 5 times. You know,
Mhm.
that they only had 5 shots on target. So I think that if they improve their finishing, they improve.
Their offense is a
How-
little bit like ours was last season.
It's lackluster.
It's a little bit of it's a little lackluster. If they just improve their finishing, improve their offense, then I think that this is a playoff team.
hmm Until then, no.
Yeah.
The one
Yeah.
I feel like we've been skipping out. The one thing that could propel them forward, though,
Rusnak.
yeah, I think that midfield. Is
That dude,
definitely-
that is such a fun player to watch.
I think if Giuseppe Rossi
Yeah.
finds his old self in RSL, then that's great for him.
I forgot about Giuseppe Rossi.
That was
Dude,
like,
he
it
is
was- it was a-
33
it
now.
was- It was a last second signing, but if he finds that old form, RSL, they have a player that can finish. Then if he finds his old form, but I think that's it for them. Let's see, what are we at right now? We are at 55 minutes, so we're gonna do.
Should we just do a part 2 then?
Yeah, we're gonna do part 2.
Well, that was 8 teams, so that's probably for the best.
To reach even with the West or the Eastern Conference, we're gonna do Vancouver and Portland to finish out. So Vancouver, the Whitecaps.
Oh, so we're saving the last dozen for the next time.
Yeah, for another episode.
Okay.
Unless you want to get through all of them. Vancouver.
Oh God, Vancouver.
I don't know. I mean,
I'm gonna say one negative thing first before you go, and I'm gonna let you think about what you have to say. So the negative thing, Vancouver, is that they play in too big of a stadium.
Yeah.
They have a passionate fan base, I will admit that, but they lose it because they play in way too big of a stadium, and they can't sell out, and that kind of hurts the team's morale. I mean, they have a lot of good players now. They've rebranded very well.
It's a similar problem with New England, I think.
Yeah, they do play in Gillette, so I mean, the Revs is a lot harder, but for like BC plays, they have a bunch of good players on this team. They have a very solid coach who is driven to win and take this team to another level. And I mean, I really have high hopes for Vancouver. I really think that they can take it to the next level on the back of Cavallini. Like, they brought in so many new signings just this offseason. Ali Adnan, he's
probably the best left
really
back.
Good. He was really good against us.
Now that Kamar Lawrence is gone, I think.
Yeah, with Kamar Lawrence gone, I think he's probably the best left back in the league.
100%.
Cavallini from I don't remember the Mexican team.
Puebla?
I think it was Puebla.
Yeah.
I'm gonna feel real bad if we got that wrong. I'm gonna look this up real quick.
I think it was.
And to think that a team like us wanted him, so I mean that was a really good signing for the Whitecaps. And they still have David Milinkovic from where did they get him from? Hull?
Yeah.
No, was it Hull?
Yeah, it was Hull.
Okay, and I mean he's been very good since coming over.
Freddie Montero, Jordan. They signed Tosaint Ricketts. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so like this Vancouver team is a playoff contender by far. Can they make it all the way to the finals with the likes of us and LAFC in the West? I don't know. That's pushing it. But if they can get lucky, I think they can do it.
So we're saying that if Vancouver were in the East, this would be a playoff team.
100%.
Yeah, for sure. They would be a finals team with Joseph Martinez out. I think Vancouver could win the East.
Because, I think Cavallini, if Vancouver were in the East, Cavallini
gets Golden Boot in
top,
the East.
Yeah, top 3 or 2 strike.
Oh, for sure. He's a baller.
We're going to finish out with another Cascadia team. We're going to talk about the Portland Timbers.
Bad memories.
Bad memories.
Timbers, bro.
The Timbers, they went all out this offseason.
They did bring in a bunch of big name players, and I gotta respect the hustle to keep competitive with Seattle and Vancouver making a lot of moves too.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. They brought in Yimi Chara. I'm just gonna name off all of them.
Yaroslav Nizgoda.
Yeah, Yaroslav Nizgoda. Is Dario Zuparic? Is he new? I think he's new.
Yes, they signed him. Yeah, at the end of January.
Jorge Morera. He's not new, but of course, he's returning, and he was a signing last season that was pretty big. So they signed 5 pretty big players.
Really good players.
Pretty good players.
Pretty big signings.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think this Portland team, go back to 2018, this Portland team I think could walk through Atlanta and win MLS Cup. I think that pretty solidly. Now, this season, though, MLS is completely different from 2 years ago. I still think with Diego Valeri, Sebastian Blanco, Diego Chara, you have a solid core, and you bring in players like Yimi Chara, Felipe Mora, and Nizgoda, and then you make that front line just absolutely insane. Like, this front line is going to be big this year for the Timbers. I am looking forward to watching this Timbers team. I think I can finally say that for once.
Yeah, I think that their loss just came to a reincarnated Minnesota team.
Mm-hmm.
So if Minnesota, the thing is with Portland is that Minnesota caught them out on the counterattack time after time after time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to see who is their coach. I cannot. What's coaches?
Oh my god, I can't remember either.
because I know it's not Caleb Porter anymore.
I'll look it up. Hold on. It would
It's
be Giovanni Savarese.
That's right, Savarese. Savarese, he plays an interesting system where he has select backs. I think if Portland can figure out that how to balance against this counterattacking style that will be played against them, then this is a playoff team. This is a cup team.
Mm-hmm. Yes, 100%.
If they don't win MLS Cup, I would not be surprised to see them with the Open Cup.
Mm-hmm. I think that Portland could definitely win a trophy this year. What trophy?
Yeah.
I don't know, but they can win a trophy this year, 100%. If there's one thing that propels them forward at the moment, it's that the core veterans: Sebastian Blanco, Diego Valeri, Diego Chara, Jorge Fiavana, Darren Esprilla, because he always comes out in the playoffs.
It's playoffs Asperia.
Playoffs Esprilla. Oh, gives me nightmares.
Yeah, I think Diego Valeri. This could be his last year in the league.
It could be, and
so maybe it's
that's
sort of a
unfortunate
redemption.
because Diego Valeri is my favorite MLS player outside of KC. So
He's so
Is he
fun.
actually?
he's such a lovable player. He's such a lovable player, man.
I do. I have a lot of respect for Diego Valeri, and I think the only way Valeri does not come back to the Portland Timbers next year
Is if he retires.
is if he goes out on the highest note possible, and that's be an MLS Cup, like a
100%.
winner.
And
Um,
we talked about it last podcast. He is a player that plays for the city. He plays for the badge.
Yes,
And
yeah.
He's one of the best that the league has seen as well. You know,
100%. I think outside of like the big superstars, Donovan, Beckham, Zlatan, which I'm not going to include Zlatan up there. Never mind. Diego Valeri. If I had thought about it at
Fuck
the
you,
time,
Zlatan.
if I had thought about it at the time, Diego Valeri would have been on my Mount Rushmore. To be honest.
he was on mine. I just want to make that clear
Oh, you're right. Yeah,
that I'm the genius
you are the genius. All right.
that put.
Imagine one thing: Diego Valeri goes to Seattle next year.
Bro,
Imagine the hatred Portland fans would have towards that man after everything he had done for them.
I think that's the
After-
worst. I think that's the worst thing you've said on this podcast.
Dude, I've said a lot of bad things in life, but like, just imagine how fans would feel about that.
Even like not a Portland fan, I would throw up if that happened.
I would be very upset.
it's kind of funny because Portland and Seattle are both green as well, but it's just I see him in that shade of green and I'm physically disgusted.
Oh, it's bad. Yeah.
But yeah. So that's all the time that we have for part 1 of this discussion. It was a pretty long one.
Let's go. We still got 12 more teams to go.
We do
Let's
still have
go.
12 more teams to go. We will get through those. In
We
the
got
next-
some bad ones too.
Okay, but we're gonna get
They
through those.
stinking up, bro.
We're
They
gonna-
stinking up.
We're gonna get through those in the next episode. Yeah, so if you're new to this content, please subscribe, leave a like, make sure you stick around for the next podcast. We upload weekly. Of course, we will upload weekly once we get the website and YouTube going. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and we will see you guys in the next video.
One last thing, though.
On the next podcast.
One last thing, bro. If you're a Dallas fan, do not watch next week. I'm the best fan alive.